Stop everything you're doing right now, because what I'm about to lay on you is going to crack your brain wide open. Beyonce's own drummer, the woman who stood behind that kit for 7 straight years, just dragged her name into a courtroom, and she didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for credit. She asked for a restraining order. Let that sink in for a second. A grown woman, a professional musician, somebody who toured the planet next to Queen Bey, walked into a building with a judge and a stack of legal paperwork and said, please keep this woman away from me. And the reason she gave wasn't a slap, wasn't a shove, wasn't a screaming match in a green room. The reason she gave was witchcraft. Dark magic. Rituals. The kind of stuff your grandma whispered about when the lights flickered, and she made you go put salt on the doorframe. And before you roll your eyes and click off, before you tell yourself this is just another tabloid fever dream cooked up by some bored blogger in a basement, you need to hear what's about to come out of my mouth. Because Kanye just opened a door that the Carters spent 20 years bolting shut, and every single hinge is screaming. Picture this. A man walks into a botanica tucked between a laundromat and a corner store in some forgotten stretch of New York. The kind of place where the candles never stop burning, and the air smells like wet cedar, and something sweeter you can't quite name. Behind the counter is a Puerto Rican guy, dual inducted, the storyteller says, into Santeria and Haitian voodoo. A man who has spent decades watching strangers walk through his door with broken hearts, sick children, jealous lovers, and impossible problems. And out of his mouth, casual as ordering a sandwich, comes a name. Solange. Oh yeah, she comes in here all the time, he says. Her and her family. They're always doing rituals. The room tilts. The customer freezes. Because this isn't a rumor on a message board anymore. This is a working man in a working temple, on a working Tuesday, dropping the name of one of the most famous families in modern music like it's nothing. Her family, the customer repeats, just to make sure he heard right. Yes, the warlock answers. They can control Jay-Z and Beyonce. I don't know you, man, but they can't control me. And that one sentence, that one little throwaway line from a man who has no reason to lie, is the thread that the entire internet is now pulling on. And every time it gets pulled, something else falls out. Now enter the lightning bolt. Enter the human wildfire. Enter the only man in pop culture who refuses to play by the unwritten rules of who you can and cannot publicly accuse. Kanye is back, and this time he's not aiming at Jay. He's not aiming at Beyonce. He's aiming at their child. He's aiming at Sir. And what he just said about that little boy is so heavy, so radioactive, so deliberately designed to detonate, that I had to read it 3 times before I believed a human being typed it out. The claim in its rawest form is this. Beyonce, while pregnant with her twins, was allegedly knee-deep in occult practices. Candles, altars, rituals, the whole catalog. And because of that, Kanye says, her son was born with what he describes as a disability. He doesn't stop there. He goes further. He claims that Jay-Z and Beyonce literally perform sacrifices, that fame at their level isn't earned, isn't bought, isn't even sold. It's traded for the people you love. And the price of their empire, according to him, was paid in the body of a child who never asked to be part of any of it. I know how that sounds. I know your jaw just did that thing where it tries to crawl off your face. But before you decide this is just one more late-night Kanye meltdown, before you put it in the same drawer as every other tweet he's deleted by morning, you need to understand something. He is not the first person to say this. He is not the second. He is not the 5th. He is now somewhere around the 12th, 15th, 20th person, depending on who you count, to walk up to a microphone or a keyboard and accuse Beyonce of the exact same thing. And these aren't trolls. These aren't burner accounts. These are dancers who spent years in her choreography rooms. Drummers who slept on her tour buses. People who signed NDAs, kept their mouths shut, smiled in the press photos, and then one day woke up and decided they could not carry the secret a single day longer. People who walked away from paychecks that most of us will never see in 3 lifetimes, because whatever they were experiencing was worse than poverty. Think about that for a heartbeat. Think about how bad something has to be for you to look at a 6-figure tour salary and decide your soul is worth more. The post itself, the one Kanye dropped, was a grenade with the pin already pulled. Has anyone ever seen Jay-Z and Beyonce's younger kids, he wrote, before slinging out a slur so ugly, I'm not even going to repeat it on this channel. A word that ended in R and started in the playground of every cruel kid you ever hated growing up. And he says it twice. He says no, like literally. He says this is why artificial insemination is a blessing. He says having children like that is a choice. A choice. Stop right there. Because that single word, that one syllable, is the trapdoor under this entire conversation. How is a child's disability a choice? How is anything a mother can't predict, can't plan, can't prevent, somehow a decision she made? Unless Kanye is not talking about genetics. Unless Kanye is not talking about biology. Unless Kanye is talking about something else entirely. something the rest of us have been told for decades doesn't exist. The post got nuked from the timeline within hours, scrubbed like it never happened. But the screenshots were already in the wild, and the internet never forgets, and Kanye, defiant as ever, came right back and went harder. His second swing was even uglier. He called the Carters slaves to the system, said they were puppets in the hands of a particular group of people. And if you've been on the internet for more than 10 minutes, you know exactly which group he means, and you know exactly why I'm not naming them on a platform that will demonetize me for breathing too loud. Then he wrote this, the line that detonated 1,000 reaction videos. The Carters and the Kardashians are basically the same. Except the Kardashians are the female version of something I, again, cannot say in this format. And right there, that's the moment the whole conversation stopped being about a tweet and started being about something much, much older. Older than Twitter. Older than Instagram. Older than the internet itself. Older, some would argue, than recorded music. Because the thing Kanye is gesturing at, in his clumsy, unfiltered lightning storm of a brain, has been the rumor underneath the entertainment industry since before there was an entertainment industry to gossip about. Because here's what people don't want to admit. Kanye has been ranting for 15 years, and we keep finding out, 2 or 3 or 7 years later, that half of what he ranted about was true. The Taylor Swift call, the label contracts, the publishing rights, the Tucker thing, the pharma thing, the Hollywood handshakes. Every single time, the same script. He says it. We laugh. We diagnose him from our couches. We forward the clips with crying laughing emojis. And then a documentary drops, or a deposition leaks, or some executive resigns in shame. And suddenly the loudest joke in the room is the only one telling the truth. So when a man with that track record starts pointing at a specific couple and using a specific word like sacrifice, you don't have to believe him. But you absolutely cannot afford to ignore him. Because the cost of being wrong is just another tweet. The cost of being right is the ugliest secret in the entertainment industry. And once you weigh those two costs against each other, the math is honestly not even close. So let's talk about that secret. Kanye has been laying these breadcrumbs for years, and most of you walked right over them. There's a clip, and if you haven't seen it, you need to find it tonight, where he is sitting across from somebody calm, almost gentle, and he says these words. I ain't taking no slice from nobody. It's God. That's the only person I serve. My mama ain't here. My mama was sacrificed. And the person across from him nods and says, me too. Me too. 2 grown men. Both massively famous. Both wealthy beyond imagination. Both calmly, casually, in broad daylight, agreeing that their mothers were sacrificed. He goes on. Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby. His son. Dr. Dre. His son. He says it like a man counting receipts. And he lands on this. Out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing. It feels like it might be a lot of that in order to control, to traumatize. They want to monetize and traumatize. Monetize and traumatize. 5 words. Read them again. Monetize and traumatize. Because once you hear that phrase, you start to see it everywhere. The child stars who break in their 20s. The musicians whose siblings die in unexplained accidents the same week they get the big deal. The actresses whose fathers fall out of windows. The rappers whose best friends catch bullets on the way to the studio. We've all noticed. We've all whispered about it. But we've all also been trained to call it coincidence, because the alternative is too dark to live with. The alternative is that the buffet at the top of fame charges a cover fee, and that fee is paid in human currency, and the bill is always, always handed to someone you love. Not someone you tolerate. Not someone you barely talk to. Someone you love deeply, irreplaceably, the way you only love a handful of people in this lifetime. Because, according to the theory, that's what gives the offering its weight. And now fans are doing math. Fans are connecting wires that were never supposed to be connected. They're looking at Sir, that little boy who almost nobody outside the family has ever clearly seen. The one whose face is kept further from a camera than any other child in modern celebrity history. And they're asking the question out loud. Was he the price? Was that beautiful little boy the deposit on Renaissance, on Cowboy Carter, on the stadium tours, on the perfume lines, on the global empire? And before you tell me that's the most disgusting question anyone has ever asked, I want you to ask yourself why. In 20-plus years of cameras following these people through grocery stores and airport terminals and red carpets and graduations in Disneyland, we have seen Blue Ivy 1,000 times, we have seen Rumi more than 0, and we have seen Sir at a rate so close to never that the math itself starts to feel like an answer. Because in a family this documented, in a family where every grocery run becomes a Vogue carousel, a child this invisible is not a coincidence. A child this invisible is a decision. And decisions, especially this kind, always have reasons behind them. Now let me bring you back to the drummer. Her name has been said. Kimberly. 7 years behind Beyonce. 7 years of click tracks and tour buses, and matching outfits and synchronized cues. 7 years of being in rooms most of us could not buy our way into with a winning lottery ticket. And one day, Kimberly stood up and said, "I cannot do this anymore." She didn't go to a tabloid. She didn't sell a book. She went to a courthouse. She filled out the forms. She paid the fee. She asked a judge of the state to order Beyonce, with all her billions, all her lawyers, all her power, to legally stay away from her. And in her own words, she described what she went through. She talked about feeling something else come into her before she performed. Something not her. Something invited. She talked about ceremonies. She talked about being convinced, eventually, that the woman she was working for was doing something the rest of us only see in horror movies. And the world, instead of stopping and asking what could possibly drive a touring musician to do something so career-ending, did what it always does. The world laughed. The world said she was crazy. The world moved on. And Kimberly, last anyone heard, is still trying to be heard. Still trying to convince a planet of strangers that she didn't make any of it up. Still living with whatever she carried out of those tours, and from the way she talks about it, that whatever is still very much alive. So let me bring you all the way back to the question that started this whole thing. Kanye says it was a choice. Kanye says Sir's condition was a choice. And the only universe in which that sentence makes any sense at all is the universe Kanye himself has been describing for the last decade. A universe where the contracts at the top of fame aren't paper, they're spiritual. A universe where you sign in something other than ink. A universe where success of a certain magnitude requires a sacrifice of a certain magnitude. And before you tell me that universe doesn't exist, before you laugh me off the screen, I want you to consider one thing. You don't have to believe in that universe for it to affect you. You only have to believe that they believe in it. Because if Beyonce, Jay-Z, Solange, Tina, and the entire inner circle genuinely believe they are participants in something occult, then their behavior, their secrecy, their patterns, their PR moves, all of it suddenly makes a kind of sense it never did before. The cleanups, the lawsuits, the NDAs, the dead-eyed denials, the kids hidden behind tinted SUV windows, the mother-in-law nicknamed Supreme, the sister with the altar photos, the drummer in a courtroom. It is not a pile of weird coincidences anymore. It is a pattern, and patterns eventually become evidence. And the sacrifices, the theory goes, don't have to be Hollywood movie sacrifices. They don't have to involve cloaks and chants and a blade on a stone table. People who study this stuff online argue that the sacrifices come in subtler costumes. A child raised in a way that contradicts everything their family was. A daughter pushed into adult industries before adulthood. A son hidden from the world. A sibling dying in a freak accident the same year the album drops. The currency, the theory says, is suffering. Specifically, the suffering of someone you love. Because suffering at scale generates energy, and energy, the believers claim, is what feeds the machine. I am not telling you this is true. I am telling you this is what is being said. And I am telling you that the people saying it are not all crazy. Some of them are doctors. Some of them are former assistants. Some of them are retired security guards who saw things in green rooms they were paid handsomely never to repeat. Some of them are exes. Some of them are pastors. Some of them, and this is the part that gets me, are believers themselves who walked away. Because there is no one more dangerous to a secret than a person who used to be inside of it. So when you stack all of it together, when you put it on one table and step back, the picture is uglier than any single rumor. You have a drummer who filed legal paperwork. You have a dancer who screamed online and was muzzled. You have a sister with altars and a PR team that scrubs them. You have a mother nicknamed the Supreme in print. You have a son who is essentially invisible. You have a husband who once said in his own words, "Men lie, women lie, numbers don't." You have a wife who built an empire so spotless that her own former employees risked their entire careers to break the spotlessness. And you have Kanye, the man we keep dismissing, sitting in the middle of it all, holding a torch up to a wall and screaming, Look at the shadows on this wall. Why aren't any of you looking?" And every time we don't look, the shadows get longer. And every time the shadows get longer, somebody else inside the inner circle decides it isn't worth the silence anymore, and another receipt slips out the side door. And the cycle starts over again. And the only people who really win are the ones who keep us arguing about whether to even ask the question. Now I want to be fair. I want to be careful. I am not a court. I am not a jury. I am not standing here telling you Beyonce sacrificed her child. I am telling you that a non-trivial number of people who were inside her world, who saw what we did not see, who heard what we did not hear, came out and said something is wrong. And every time one of them spoke, the machine moved very, very fast to make sure you forgot their name by morning. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself who has the resources to make a story die that quickly. Ask yourself what kind of woman the keepers of the celebrity ecosystem need to protect. Then ask yourself why, of all the artists in the world, This one in particular has had her name attached to this specific accusation by this specific kind of insider for this many specific years. Because it is not random. It is not a meme. It is not a hater of the week situation. It is a steady drumbeat, pun absolutely intended, going back longer than most of you have had a phone in your pocket. And let's talk about Sir for a second. Just Sir. Forget Kanye, forget the rituals, forget the rumors. Just the boy. Because in any other family in America, even in any other celebrity family, a child of his fame would have had thousands of photographs by now. Backyard pictures, school recital pictures, Disneyland pictures, awkward family Christmas pictures. Pictures the parents complain about and then post anyway because that's what people do with their children. With Sir, there is almost nothing. A blur, a silhouette, a side profile in a dark restaurant, a hand inside a sleeve. And his sister Rumi, who was born the same day in the same hospital to the same parents, has been seen far, far, far more often. Why is one twin a regular feature of the family narrative and the other a near ghost? Maybe it's a parenting choice. Maybe it's a privacy preference. Maybe it's a medical situation that deserves nothing but compassion and silence from all of us. Or maybe the world has been told a story about him that does not match the one being told inside the house. And maybe Kanye, in his manic, sleepless, paranoid, lightning rod way, just yanked the curtain. And maybe the reason the curtain has stayed shut for so long is that what is behind it does not fit into the perfectly polished mythology this family has spent 20 years building. There is one more piece of this I have to put in front of you, because if I don't, somebody else will. Kanye is not just throwing accusations at strangers. He is talking about his own mother. He is telling you repeatedly on cameras and in interviews that he believes his mother was the cost of his career. The mother he wrote songs for. The mother who got him out of Chicago. The mother whose name is tattooed on the entire foundation of his catalog. He is saying, in public, that he believes the universe extracted her in exchange for his ascent. And the person across the table from him in that clip says, "Me too. Me too." Whatever you believe about Kanye's mental state, you cannot believe that two men of that level of success are sitting across from each other lying about their dead mothers for clout. That is not how any human being on this planet behaves. So you are either watching two grieving sons projecting magical thinking onto natural tragedy, or you are watching two members of a club tell each other the truth in front of all of us, hoping we are awake enough to hear it. Pick a column. There is no third option. There is no comfortable middle. Either you call them both delusional, or you call them both witnesses. And one of those choices ages worse than the other, depending on what comes out in the next 10 years. And while you're picking, I want you to think about all the famous funerals you have seen this year. Last year. The year before. I want you to think about how often, at a certain level of fame, the family of the famous starts dropping in numbers that feel statistically strange. Brothers in car accidents. Fathers in falls. Sons in shootings. Mothers on operating tables for routine procedures that did not used to be lethal. Coincidence is a hell of a drug. But coincidence has a ceiling. And when the deaths cluster around the people who climbed the highest, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to start counting. You just have to be honest. You just have to be willing to admit that the obituary section of the entertainment world looks weirder than the actuarial tables can explain. And that is before you account for the breakdowns, the institutionalizations, the children who turn out so visibly hurt that the gossip blogs go quiet out of guilt for one whole afternoon. Let me give you something else to chew on while you make up your mind. Think about how the industry talks about people who quote-unquote made it. Think about the language. They sold out. They paid their dues. They put in the work. They earned their stripes. Innocent phrases, right? But sit with them. Sold to whom? Dues to whom? Stripes from whom? The vocabulary itself sounds like a transaction. And the further you climb, the more transactional the vocabulary gets. People stop calling you talented and start calling you anointed. People stop calling you successful and start calling you blessed. People stop saying you got lucky and start saying you got chosen. Chosen by whom? Anointed by whom? Blessed by whom? It is one of the oldest tricks in any closed system. The system trains you to use its language before it trains you to see itself. And by the time you can see it, you are already speaking its dialect fluently. Now look at Beyonce's catalog. Look at the iconography. Look at the visuals. The Mami Wata imagery and hold up. The Yoruba symbolism. The water deities. The fire goddesses. The crowns. The robes. The opening of the Grammy performance that had church people genuinely worried. None of this, by itself, proves anything. Plenty of pop stars play with religious imagery for shock value. But Beyonce does not play. Beyonce is precise. Beyonce is calculated. Every single thread of fabric in her videos is chosen. Every single number of dancers is chosen. Every single shot length is chosen. So when a woman that meticulous loads her work with imagery from a specific tradition, over and over across years, across albums, across continents of touring, You do not get to pretend it is a coincidence. You get to ask the question, what is she telling us? What is she signaling? And who is she signaling to? And then look at the reactions. Look at how the most controlled woman in pop, the one whose press team can pull a story off the front page of an entire news cycle in under 3 hours, has somehow not addressed any of this. Not the drummer, not the dancer, not the warlock in the botanica, not the supreme, not the altars, not Kanye, not Sir, not the slur, not the choice, not the sacrifice. Nothing. Silence. From the most strategic communicator in modern celebrity history. And anyone who has ever worked in PR will tell you that silence at this scale is not an accident. Silence at this scale is a calculation. Silence at this scale means somebody somewhere in a glass office with a view did the math and decided that any answer at all would be worse than no answer. And once you understand that, you understand exactly how big this thing actually is. Because the things you can deny, you deny. The things you can laugh off, you laugh off. The things you go quiet on are the things you cannot afford to touch. Now I want to do something that almost nobody on this side of YouTube ever does. I want to give the other side a fair shot. Because if I do not, you can just dismiss me the same way the world keeps dismissing Kimberly and Kada and Kanye, and you would be right to do it. So here is the Steelman version, the strongest case anyone can make for the defense. Maybe Sir is a child whose parents made a brave, loving call to keep him out of the spotlight after watching what fame has done to other people's kids. Maybe Solange's altar photos are nothing more than a wellness aesthetic that millions of people on Pinterest share every single day. And the takedown request was the same boring privacy hygiene every celebrity teen does without thinking. Maybe Tina is just a woman who had a long day in Houston, and a fan caught her at the wrong second. Maybe Kimberly was genuinely struggling and projected something onto a job that was simply hard. Maybe Kada was hurt by a friend in a personal way and spiraled in public. Maybe Kanye is, as the doctors keep insisting, in a manic episode and his fingers are typing things his settled mind would never sign off on. Maybe all of it, all together, is the kind of fog that always swirls around the biggest stars on the planet, and we are doing what humans always do, which is connect dots that were never actually connected to begin with. That is the defense. That is the cleanest possible version of the defense. And if that is the version you walk away believing tonight, I will respect it. But here is the catch. Even when you steelman the defense at full strength, you still have to explain the pattern. You still have to explain why every single one of those innocent things landed on the same family. Solange could have an altar and Tina could have a bad day, and Kimberly could have a breakdown and Kada could have a misunderstanding and Kanye could have a meltdown, and Sir could have a private upbringing. And one or two of those could absolutely happen to any famous family in America. But all of them stacked in the same bloodline, in the same decade, in the same direction, around the same accusation? That is not a fog. That is a weather system. And weather systems have causes. They do not just appear because the universe decided to dump 6 unrelated storms on one zip code for fun. There is always a reason behind the climate. So no, I am not telling you Kanye is right. I am not even telling you Kanye is healthy. I am telling you that he keeps pointing at the same door, and behind that door we keep hearing furniture move. And maybe, just maybe, it is time we stopped laughing long enough to listen. Because the next person who walks out of that door with screenshots in her hand and a child in danger might be telling you the exact same story Kimberly told, and Kada told, and the warlock in the botanica told, and Kanye keeps telling. And if you keep dismissing every messenger, eventually you have to ask yourself whose interests it actually serves to keep that door bolted. Because it definitely doesn't serve yours. It doesn't serve your kids. It doesn't serve the truth. It only serves whoever is on the other side of that door. And whoever is on the other side has the money, the lawyers, the influence, and the very public, very practiced ability to make people who tell the truth disappear from the timeline by sundown. Before I let you go, sit with one more thing. The next time you see Beyonce on a stage, watch her hands. Watch her eyes. Watch the breath she takes right before the lights go up. Watch the way the air around her seems to bend in a specific direction. The way the crowd feels something they cannot name. That is the part the believers point to. That is the part nobody can fake with vocal coaching or stage lights or rehearsals. They will tell you that what you are watching is not a performance. It is a transmission. They will tell you the audience is not an audience. It is a battery. They will tell you the screams you are giving her are not screams. They are offerings. And again, I am not asking you to believe any of that. I am asking you to notice that 1 billion people on this planet have, at some point, felt something at her concerts they did not feel anywhere else, and that the most ordinary explanation for that feeling, talent, and stagecraft has been the official story for so long that nobody ever bothers asking whether there might be a less ordinary one underneath it. So here is where I leave you tonight, because I have to leave you somewhere, and the truth is, this story is not finished. It is barely cracking open. I want you to comment below. I want you to tell me whether you think this is a hurt man swinging at a couple who abandoned him, or whether you think there is something darker baked into the foundation of the biggest empire in modern music. I want you to tell me what you make of the drummer. I want you to tell me what you make of the dancer. I want you to tell me what you make of a mother nicknamed Supreme, a sister with altars, a son in shadow, and a husband whose silence in the middle of all of this is honestly the loudest thing in the room. Because Beyonce has not said a word. Jay has not said a word. The PR machine has not said a word. And in the world of celebrity, silence is never just silence. Silence is a strategy. Silence is a sentence. And when somebody this powerful goes this quiet for this long while this many people scream their name, you are not watching nothing. You are watching everything. Stay tuned, because I am not done with this one. I am not even close. The next video is going to crack something else open, and you are going to want to be in the room when it does. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell on, and whatever you do tonight, before you go to sleep, ask yourself one simple question. If everything Kanye is saying is true, what does that mean about the music you have been singing along to for the last 20 years? And if it is not true, why do so many people in so many corners with so much to lose keep saying the exact same thing? I will see you in the next one.